Splash wasn't just Tom Hanks' first leading man role. It was the movie that launched Disney's Touchstone Pictures and proved that adult fairy tales could be box office gold. Released in 1984, this romantic comedy about a man who falls in love with a mermaid became a cultural phenomenon that influenced everything from romantic comedies to special effects. But behind the magic love story lies a production filled with underwater stunts, Disney's corporate panic, and one of the most expensive tail effects ever created. Here are 12 magical facts about Splash that'll make you believe in love at first sight all over again. 1. Disney was so terrified about making their first adult-oriented movie that they created an entirely new studio division, Touchstone Pictures, just to release Splash. The Disney executives were convinced that a mermaid movie with nudity would destroy their family-friendly reputation forever. Michael Eisner had just become Disney's CEO and needed to prove the studio could make money beyond animated films. But Disney's board of directors was horrified by the idea of bare breasts in a Disney movie. Even though you never see anything explicit, creating Touchstone was basically their way of having plausible deniability. 2. Tom Hanks was far from the first choice for Alan Bauer. The studio wanted established leading men like Kevin Costner, Bill Murray, or Steve Guttenberg. Hanks was known only for the TV sitcom Bosom Buddies and was considered too goofy for a romantic lead. Director Ron Howard fought hard for Hanks because he saw something special in his audition. Howard said Hanks had this perfect combination of vulnerability and humor that made you believe that he could fall in love with the mermaid. The studio was skeptical until they saw the screen test, and then everything clicked. 3. Daryl Hannah trained with professional marine biologists and Olympic swimmers for 4 months to achieve Madison's otherworldly swimming abilities. She learned to hold her breath for over 2 minutes and perform complex underwater choreography while wearing a 35-pound mermaid tail. The tail was made of fiberglass and foam, but it was so heavy and restrictive that Hannah could barely walk on land. Underwater, she had to learn completely new ways of moving that looked graceful and supernatural. She said it was like learning to be a different species, which is exactly what the role required. 4. The stunning underwater Statue of Liberty scene was filmed using a specially constructed 20-foot replica built in the Bahamas. The production team sank the model in crystal clear water and used underwater cameras to create one of cinema's most memorable reveal moments. What makes this scene so powerful is that it shows us New York from Madison's perspective, a drowned world that's beautiful rather than tragic. The filmmakers spent weeks getting the lighting just right, so the statue would look both majestic and haunting. It's basically the moment the audience falls in love with being a mermaid too. 5. John Candy improvised most of his dialogue as Alan's brother Freddie, turning what was originally a straight man role into comedic gold. Ron Howard encouraged Candy to ad-lib because his natural timing was funnier than anything in the script. Candy's background from Second City and SCTV meant he could improvise entire scenes while staying true to the character. His best moments, like the seafood restaurant scene and his reactions to meeting Madison, were pure Candy magic. He understood that Freddie needed to be lovable despite being completely irresponsible. 6. Madison's mermaid tail cost $75,000 to create in 1984, equivalent to about $200,000 today. It was handcrafted by special effects artist Robert Short using advanced materials and took 6 months to perfect. The tail had to be beautiful enough for close-ups, functional enough for swimming, and comfortable enough for Daryl Hannah to wear for 12-hour filming days. Short used automotive paint techniques and real scales to create something that looked both mythical and believable. It was basically a piece of wearable art. 7. Disney's executives were so paranoid about nudity that they required Ron Howard to shoot every scene with Madison's naked back using multiple camera angles and body doubles. They wanted the option to digitally add clothing in post-production if test audiences were offended. The irony is that Splash is incredibly tasteful. You never see anything explicit, and the nudity serves the story rather than exploitation. But Disney was so terrified of their first non-G-rated film that they over-prepared for a controversy that never came. Sometimes corporate fear creates more problems than the actual content. 8. Eugene Levy prepared for his role as the obsessed marine biologist by spending weeks with real oceanographers and marine scientists. He wanted to understand the genuine scientific fascination with discovering a new species. Levy realized that Kornbluth wasn't just a villain, he was a scientist who'd made the discovery of a lifetime and couldn't understand why everyone else wasn't as excited as he was. That perspective made the character more sympathetic and funnier because his obsession came from genuine scientific wonder rather than just being evil. 9. The Liberty Island chase sequence required coordinating with the National Park Service, Coast Guard, and New York Harbor authorities. The production had to shut down tourist access to the Statue of Liberty for 3 days, costing an additional $100,000 in location fees. Ron Howard said directing that sequence was like conducting an orchestra while riding a roller coaster. They had helicopters, boats, hundreds of extras, and all the logistics of filming on a national monument. Plus, they had to make it look romantic instead of terrifying, which is incredibly difficult when you're being chased by the government. 10. Madison's penthouse aquarium scene required building a functional 10,000-gallon tank inside a New York apartment set. The production team had to reinforce the floors and install industrial plumbing to support the weight and water circulation. The scene shows Madison transforming her human world into something more comfortable for her true nature, which is beautiful symbolism about compromise in relationships. But practically, it meant the crew was working with thousands of gallons of water on an upper floor set, which was an engineering nightmare that somehow became movie magic. 11. Tom Hanks had to learn underwater acting techniques for his scenes with Madison beneath the surface. He worked with diving instructors to perform emotional scenes while holding his breath and maintaining eye contact with Daryl Hannah. Hanks said the underwater scenes were where he really understood Alan's character, a man so in love that he's willing to literally dive into a completely different world. The physical challenge of underwater acting helped Hanks access the emotional truth of someone willing to give up everything for love. 12. Splash created the modern romantic comedy template that Hollywood still uses today. Mismatched couple, magical circumstances, obstacles that seem insurmountable, and a finale that proves love conquers all. The movie grossed over $69 million and proved adult fairy tales were commercially viable. Before Splash, romantic comedies were mostly screwball comedies from the 1940s or sexual farces from the 1970s. This movie showed that audiences wanted romance with genuine emotion, fantastic elements, and happy endings. It basically created the blueprint for every magical romantic comedy that followed from Big to The Princess Bride. So there you have it, 12 magical facts about Splash that proved this wasn't just a cute mermaid movie. It was a filmmaking revolution that changed Disney, launched Tom Hanks' career, and created the modern romantic comedy. From underwater stunts to corporate panic attacks, every element came together to create something truly special. Which fact surprised you the most? And here's the ultimate romantic question for the comments. Would you give up your life on land for true love? Or is that just movie magic talking? If you love deep dives into the movies that changed Hollywood forever, smash the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. I've got more behind the scenes stories from the films that didn't just entertain us, they transformed entire genres.